Hello Sim Pilots, welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator video with me, Real Sim Pilot, and the FlyByWire A32nx. Today we're going to be doing a full flight from Copenhagen down to London Heathrow. Flight time is about 2 hours. Our call sign is going to be Speedbird 815, British Airways flight. We are parked here at the gate Charlie 27 at Copenhagen. The aircraft is shut down, cold and dark. So let's jump into the flight deck and get started with the setup. Just a reminder, once you've selected your aircraft and your departure, do not fill in an arrival airport. That is going to be done in the MCDU of the A32nx. So on your world map, just select your departure airport and your gate and leave the arrival airport and your route blank, as that will be filled in the MCDU. Alright, as we step into the flight deck, you can see everything is powered down. We are completely cold and dark. So the first thing we want to do is head on over to the overhead panel. Select batteries 1 and 2 on. Connect the external power. Turn on the overhead integral lighting. Arm the emergency exit lights. No smoking signs can go on. Nav and logo lights can go on. Crew supply can go on. ADOs 1, 2 and 3 can be set to nav. Then we'll come down to the FCU. Turn on the lighting there. Switch on the brightness there. Turn up the brightness for the displays. The PFD, the ND, ECAM upper and ECAM lower. And the co-pilots ND and PFD. And we can come down to the pedestal, turn on the integral lighting over here, and you can turn up the flood lighting a little bit if you want to. Let's go over here, turn on the fly pads along. Okay, so first thing we want to do is bring up our flight plan from SimBrief. So we're going to select from SimBrief on the fly pad. Here you can see our departure is Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel, and we're going to Echo Golf Lima Lima. Current QNH 1001, 190 at 17 knots. So the wind is coming from a southerly direction. That's going to help us choose our runway. We're not using any ATC for this flight. I've disabled the default ATC. We're also flying offline, no VATSIM at the moment. So let's bring up our operational flight plan. Let's go over here, we can set the current QNH, so it is 1001. Constraints can come on while we are here. Then let's go to the MCDU and begin the setup. So the first thing you want to do in the MCDU is go to ATSU, AOC menu, init data request, and that's going to import the SimBrief flight plan to our MCDU. So there we go, our call sign Speedbird 815, departure Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel, destination Echo Golf Lima Lima, fuel on board 3.9. We need to add fuel. We now do it in the flight plan, so we'll do that in a moment. Let's go back to the AOC menu, weight and balance, operational flight plan request. That brings up our weight and balance. You can see we've got 174 passengers today. And then select start boarding, and the passengers will start loading. And now you can hear, I don't know if you can hear it on the video, the new passenger sounds in the cabin. Not sure if I'm loud enough. Anyway, let's load the fuel over here. So we got operational flight plan. Let's check how much fuel we need for this trip. We have block fuel of 6,841 kilograms. So the next tab over here is fuel. Let's load our fuel, so you can type it in on the keyboard, 6841, or you can just use the slider, but it's easier just to type it in, 6841. That is our block fuel, and we can select start loading over there. Okay. From there we go back to the MCDU, using our acronym diff strip. So we're going to skip data because there's nothing to fill in over there. So we go init A, init request, from Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel to Echo Golf Lima Lima. Alternate is Gatwick. There's our flight number, there's our cost index. Our cruising flight level today is flight level 340 minus 50 degrees. Okay, after init A we do flight plan. So this is our flight plan. So let's decide on our departure. We said our winds are coming from the south, so we're looking for a runway that is going to take off into the wind. Because we don't have any HC, we can choose whichever runway we want to take off. So let's bring up Navigraph. I use Navigraph for my charts. Flights. New flights. From SimBrief. Use latest SimBrief operational flight plan. Yes, that's the correct one. And that's going to bring up our flight. So there we're departing Copenhagen and flying down to Heathrow. So let's have a look at this flight. Our first waypoint en route is Lango. So we want a standard instrument departure that's going to take us southwest to Lango. And we want a runway that's going to take off into the wind, which is southerly direction. So if we go Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel, open charts list. Let's have a look at the ground charts. So if I zoom in there, you can see we are parked here at gate Charlie 28, I think it is. Yes, over there. And we want to take off southerly, so we're going to use 22 left or 22 right. I'm going to select runway 22 right for departure. So that'll be our departure runway, taking off southwest, which is the direction we need to go in anyway. And we're looking for a standard instrument departure that's going to take us to Lango. So we're looking for a Lango departure off runway 22 right. So there's Lango 1 Alpha RNAV departure. That's for runway 04. Lango 2 Bravo. No, that's for runway 12. Lango 1 Charlie. 22 right. There we go. That's our departure. So there, as you can see, departing runway 22 right. Lango 1 Charlie. Tobus to Lango. So it's a pretty straightforward departure, basically just a straight line to Lango. Lango, climb and extended runway center line, TDU, CAS, Rubat, or 1,500 feet, whichever is later, then direct to Tobus, direct to Lango. So pretty straightforward. Transition altitude 5,000 feet. There doesn't seem to be any altitude restrictions for this departure, so that's the one we are going to choose. So we're going to use runway 22 right. And the departure is going to be the Lango 1 Charlie departure. Okay, that's the charts done, so we can set that in the MCDU so long. Departure 22 right. Lango 1 Charlie departure. Insert that. And we're just going to step down. We're going to clear the discontinuity. And we're also going to delete one of the Lango waypoints, because as you can see it's there twice. Clear the discontinuity. There we go. That looks good all the way down to Echo Golf Lima Lima. The arrival we will set up during the cruise. For now, after a flight plan, RadNav, there's nothing really to set up there for today's departure. So we can go init B. Next page, 0 fuel weight. Double select the line select key. I think the passengers are still loading. That 0 fuel weight is incorrect. So we got a fuel on board of 68.6840 kilograms. Rounded up to the nearest 100 makes it 6,900 kilograms, which makes our block fuel in tons 6.9 tons. That's it. What we can do in the meantime is we can check our 0 fuel weights on our operational flight plan. Zero fuel weight is going to be 60.6, so we can actually type that in for planning purposes. 60.6. Our headwind is going to be average wind components, headwind of 100 knots. Jeez, that's a strong headwind. I don't know how accurate that's going to be once we're in the cruise, but let's stick it in there anyway. So we're going to go minus 100. That is a very strong headwind. Okay, so performance, going to be a flaps 1 takeoff, transition altitude 5,000 feet, V1 is going to be 133, V rotate 134, and V2 138. Okay, our transition altitude is 5,000 feet. Let's just check our flight plan one more time. Now that the aiders have been aligned. As I step through the waypoints, everything looks like it should. Down to Logan, and then Echo Golf Lima Lima. Okay, so that looks like pretty much everything is set up, ready to go. Just want to make sure passengers are loaded. There we go, everything looks good. So I'm just going to do one last check on the init B page. Just make sure it matches what it should, 60.6, that is correct. So what we can do is we can close the doors and get ready for departure. So I'm going to close that for now. Let's use our pushback. So we're going to close the doors, close the doors, close the doors. Pushback, start pushback. Let's go up to the overhead panel. Turn on all the fuel pumps. APU master can go on. We wait 3 seconds. We start the APU. Turn on fasten seatbelt signs. Beacon light can go on. There we go, APU is available. It's back to the overhead panel. We can turn on the APU bleed, disconnect the external power, and we are ready for pushback. So we're going to go mode selector, we're going to ignition start. We're going to start engine number 2, and release the parking brake, and we are going to begin the pushback. Okay, start engine 1. Okay, I'm going to stop the pushback over here. Set the parking brake. Okay, engine 1 is available, so we have 2 good engine starts. Okay, after start flow, let's go ahead and turn off the APU bleed. APU master can go off. Runway turn off lights can go on. Nose wheel steering light can go to taxi. We can set auto brake to max. Down here we can set the flaps to takeoff, which is takeoff 1, and we can arm the speed brakes. Let's check the flight controls quickly. So our flight controls, we can go full left, neutral, full right, neutral, full up, neutral, full down, neutral, rudder left, neutral, rudder right, neutral. This flight controls have been checked. Pitch trim we're going to set to 1.5 up. And that's it, we are ready for taxi. So let's check out our taxi route. Go back to Navigraph, our ground chart. We are here, Pushback Charlie 28, so we're at Quebec. We're going to go Quebec, right on Yankee, left onto Alpha. We're going to cross runway, and then we're going to go to Alpha 1. Is going to be a holding point. So down Quebec, right on Yankee, left on Alpha, cross runway, and to Alpha 1 is going to be our taxi route. Let's close that. Close that. And we are ready for taxi. So we have an aircraft taxiing in. I hope he's going to park there. Take a left turn here onto Alpha, line up behind the other traffic that's going to be departing. We have another aircraft on the other side of the runway also. So it looks like we'll be number 3 for departure. He's just landed, he's clearing the runway, he's entering the runway, and he will be after him. So we will be number 3 for departure. Okay, so while we wait for them to depart, let's do it before takeoff checklist. So flight controls checked, flight instruments are checked, briefing confirmed. Flap settings, we got flap 1, V1 we got 134, V rotate 135, and V2 139. HC we got not using, ECAM memo, takeoff no blue. Auto brake max, sounds on, cabin ready, spoilers are armed, flap set to takeoff, and takeoff config is normal. Takeoff runway is confirmed, we are 22 right, which is over there. That pretty quickly. Cabin crew's been advised TCAS can go to TARA so long. Why not? Auto. We can turn on the landing lights. Release the parking brake. And we'll creep forward to the line while he takes off. Okay, that's the before takeoff checklist complete. Let's go ahead and just hold here for a second while he departs. Okay, he's departing, so we are going to line up and wait. Runway 22 right. Okay, start the clock. Let's set throttles 50%. He's gone, so we can take off. There's 50% N1. Toga. Mantoga SRS runway. It's 80 knots. There's 100 knots. Let me try and stay on the center line. 120. V1 rotates. Pitching for the flight directors. There's a positive rate of climb, gear up. Right, accelerating through 160 knots. Pitching up a little bit more. 1,100 feet. We'll wait for 1.5, then we'll bring the throttles back to climb. There's 1.5, so we can set climb descent. There we go, climb, let's pitch down. Climbing through 180 knots, 2,700 feet for 5,000. Let's try and stay on track. Coming up through our green S speed so we can retract the flaps to 0. Disarm speed brakes. Turn off the runway turn off lights and the nose wheel lights. Okay, there's 230 knots. Coming up to 250 knots. We can turn that up to, we have no altitude restriction, so we can set that right up to our cruising flight level of 340. We don't have the autopilot on yet. Let's do our right hand turn now. We need to pitch up to maintain 250 knots. A little bit fast, so we'll pitch up a little bit more. Pitching for speed. Back on track. A little bit fast, so we can pitch up a little bit more. A little bit to the right of track. That should do it. That's good enough. A little bit slow now, so we're going to pitch the nose down. Oh, we forgot to set standard on the barrow. Okay, we're coming up through 10,000 feet, so we can turn off the landing lights. We can turn off the fasten seatbelt sign. And we can pitch down to accelerate to our cruise speed. And we're going to continue to climb up to flight level 340. Right, so what we can do from here is we can arm the autopilot. And we'll continue to our cruising flight level, flight level 340. And from there we will set up the arrival and the approach into London Heathrow. So I will see you in the cruise. Okay guys, we are currently cruising at flight level 340 on this British Airways flight to London Heathrow. As always, if you find value in these videos, smash that like button, hit subscribe, it really helps us out. Let's jump back into the cockpit and prepare for our arrival and our approach. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is head on back over to the charts and set up our approach. So based on the winds at Heathrow, we are winds 270 at 21 knots. That's quite a strong wind, but it's also a headwind straight down runway 27. So we know already we're going to be using runway 27. And I know from prior experience, I think it's 27 left for arrivals. So we're going to be using runway 27 left, and we're going to be using, our last waypoint on this flight plan is Logan. So we want a Logan arrival. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose ILS DME 27 left. This is going to be our arrival, so it's going to be ILS runway 27 left. And our approach, sorry, that's going to be our approach, and then our arrival is going to be the Logan 2 hotel arrival. So from Logan, flight level 250, Sabre, flight level 160 to the Lambourne VOR, and then we'll just vector ourselves onto final approach. So arrival, Logan 2 hotel, approaches ILS runway 27 left. That's what it's going to look like. Let's set that MCDU, and then we will plan our descent. So we go next phase. Sorry, so we go flight plan, Echo Golf Lima Lima, arrival, ILS 27 left, Logan 2 hotel arrival. There it is there, Logan 2 hotel arrival. And insert that over there. Let's just check that flight, make sure everything looks like it should. Flight plan, step down. Logan. So Logan should be flight level 250. And then Sabre flight level 160, Brasso, Weasel, Lamborn, decelerate, looks a little bit different. Okay, that's all good. If we need to be at flight level 250 by Logan, when do we need to descend? So we go over here to our calculator. We're at 340, we need to descend to 250. So 28 nautical miles before Logan, we will begin our descent from flight level 340 to be at Logan at 250. How do we know when we're 24 nautical miles away from Logan? Well, if you haven't seen my descent planning video, check that out on the channel. It explains everything, but for now what we'll do is we're going to go to the fix page, fix info. We're going to put Logan into our fix page. Logan 349 nautical miles away, that's that one. And we're going to draw a radius of 28 nautical miles around Logan. And that is going to show us when we are 28 nautical miles away from Logan on the navigation display. We can also go to our progress page and we can stick Logan in there. And that'll also show us when we are, how far we are from Logan. So we're currently still 345 nautical miles away from Logan. So when that gets down to 28 nautical miles, we begin our descent into Logan. One final thing to do, performance page. Let's go and set up our destination data for our arrival. So the current QNH at Heathrow is 1011, winds 270 at 21 knots, temperature 7 degrees. QNH 1011, temperature 7 degrees, winds 270 at 21 knots. Transition altitude is 7,000 feet. I think that is correct as per the chart. Let's have a look at our arrival. Our transition altitude 7,000, so 6,000, so the translation level is 7,000. That's correct. It's going to be a minimum of, let's go back there again and have a look. Minimums are going to be, we can actually do a Cat 2, so we can do decision altitude of 177 feet. So we can stick that in the barrow there, 177 feet. And landing config will be full. And that's it. That is the arrival set up. If I page through this again, you can see our ring which we put, there we go, there's our ring that we put around Logan. So when we get there, we'll begin our descent down to flight level 250. So let's go ahead and brief the approach and the arrival into London Heathrow. So if I open up the charts and we go, let's start with the arrival, and we are doing the Logan 2 hotel arrival into London Heathrow. So if we start at the top left, we have some frequencies. We have the airport elevation. Altimeter setting will be hectopascals, transition level by ATC, but we're going to use flight level 070, 7,000 feet. Standard routes may be varied by ATC. Aircraft may be instructed direct to waypoint following radar vectors. So our star is going to be Logan at flight level 250, Sabre flight level 160, then Brasso Weasel max 250 knots to the Lamborn VOR, max 220 knots at 7,000 feet. Here you can see descent planning, flight level 250 by Logan, flight level 160 by Sabre, 70 by Lamborn. Actual descent clearance will be as directed by ATC. So we're coming from the northeast. We're going to head direct to Logan, where we need to be at flight level 250. Then we're going to heading 264 to Sabre, then a heading 263 to Brasso, then to Weasel, then direct to the Lamborn VOR. From there, at 7,000 feet, from Sabre at 160, we're going to descend to 7,000 feet by Lamborn VOR, and then from there we are going to continue with the approach. So let's brief this approach. It is the ILS DME or localizer DME for runway 27 left into London Heathrow. Here we have our ATIS frequencies at the top. Localizer frequency 109.5. Final approach course is 269. Initial approach altitude is going to be 2,500 feet. D7.5 from India Lima Lima, which is the ILS DME for runway 27 left. Okay, Cat 3B and 3A ILS refer to minimums. Airport elevation 83 feet, runway elevation is 77 feet. Our missed approach instructions are climb straight ahead when passing 1080 or D0ILL, whichever is later. Climbing turn left on track 147 degrees to 2000 feet. When passing D60 London, climb without delay to 3000 feet, then as directed. In event of radio failure, C11-6. Ultimate setting hectopascals, runway elevation 3 hectopascals, transition level by ATC, transition altitude 6,000 feet. Here we have our minimum safe altitude around the London VOR, and here we have a view of the arrival. So we're going to join from Lamborn VOR, we're going to vector ourselves onto the final approach, 2,500 feet. We're going to join the localizer and the glide slope here at D7.5, India Lima Lima, and then we're going to start our descent down to the runway. Pretty straightforward. Aircraft unable to receive DME, advise ATC. Equivalent radar fix will be provided. ILS DME reads 0 at runway 27 left threshold. And here's another view side on at the descent down. Ground speed in knots, 120, 140, 160, 180. Standard 3-degree dive slope, and this will be our descent rate feet per minute. So we're looking at about a 743 between 140 and 160 knot descent. Okay, there's our lights. We have puppies on the left hand side, and there's our missed approach instructions again. And the minimums for the approach is going to be 177 feet decision height. And that is it for the arrival. I will cut to the top of the descent and see you there. Okay, so we are back. It's been 1 hour and 15 minutes since we departed Copenhagen, and we are almost at our top of descent marker, which is the circle which we made earlier, which is our 28 nautical mile ring around the Logan waypoint. So we need to descend from flight level 340 down to flight level 250 by Logan. So we're going to set 250 in the altitude window, and we're going to select our manage descent, thrust idle, descent. See the throttle's coming back to idle, and we're going to begin our descent down to Logan at flight level 250 as briefed in the approach. Okay, I did begin the descent a little bit early, but no problem. We will level off at flight level 250, and from there we will descend again to flight level 160. So here we are on the Logan 2 hotel arrival. Right, here we're coming up to Logan at flight level 250, and from there we're going to descend down to flight level 160 to be at 160 by next waypoint. So Logan, flight level 250, we're going to pass right through it, so I'm just going to continue the descent down to flight level 160. There we've reached Logan at exactly flight level 250, and we can continue the descent. Is it going to descend on its own? Yes, it is. Okay, so we're going to continue the descent onto our next waypoint, which is Sabre at flight level 160. After Sabre, our next altitude is going to be at Lambourne VOR by 070. From there we're going to continue the descent down to 2,500 feet for the ILS. Okay, here we're coming up to Sabre, 5 nautical miles away, flight level 160. We're almost at 160. There we go, about to level off at flight level 160, and we are just over 3.5 nautical miles away from Sabre. Next altitude, 7,000 feet. It's not going to be vertical speed, it must be managed speed. Okay, we busted the altitude there because I didn't set it on managed mode. Nevertheless, we are about to cross over Sabre, and we can continue our descent down to 7,000 feet. Okay, so we're going to be slow down to 250 knots at Weasel, and then 220 knots at Lambourne. Okay, so there we go. Our descent rate is decreased, so the aircraft can slow down to 250 knots before we reach waypoint Weasel. There's the next waypoint of Lambourne VOR, which is at flight 7,000 feet, 220 knots. So things are going to start getting busy now. It looks like the weather isn't too bad. The ATIS was reporting rain. Still is. Maybe that still needs to update. Okay, there we go. Slowing down to 250 knots. And we can continue the descent. QNH is 1011, so that will set at 7,000 feet. Okay, we're about to descend below 10,000 feet, so let's go ahead and turn on the landing lights. Okay, there's Weasel, 250 knots. Now we're going to slow down to 220 knots to be 220 knots at Lambourne VOR, and we're going to continue the descent down to 7,000 feet. Okay, our descent rate is a little bit slow, but it should pick up now. Okay, so here we are coming up to Lambourne, then we're going to go direct to the final approach for the ILS. We're not going to do this little S-turn here. We're going to go from here. We're going to go straight to here and then in. So we can actually head on over to the next chart, which will be the ILS chart. So from here, from Lambourne, we're going to come this way and then onto the final approach. Okay, there's Lambourne at 7,000 feet, 220 knots. Our next altitude window is 3,000. Okay, 7,000 feet. Let's set the QNH, which is 1012. QNH is set to the approach checklist. Briefing is confirmed. ECAM status is checked. Seatbelt signs are on. Barrow reference set 1012 on both. Minimums we've set at 177 feet. Engine mode selector is normal. And that's the approach checklist complete. Okay, from now on we're heading straight to the approach ILS runway 27 left, which is that over there. We'll slow down just before we hit the target. Turn on the landing system. We should have done that at 10,000 feet. We can actually activate the approach mode. So we go performance, activate approach phase, confirm. Okay, 20 nautical miles away. Descending through 4,000 feet for 3,000 feet, 220 knots. Okay, there we have our indicators for the localizer and for the glide slope. We are now 17.6 nautical miles away, heading over London City. There we're leveling off at 3,000 feet. Okay, as we approach our final turn, let's go ahead and set the altitude to 2,500 feet, and that will be our intercept altitude. Actually, we're close enough, so let's go ahead and select approach. There we have glide slope armed, localizer armed, Cat 3 single, barrow 177 feet. So now the autopilot will capture the localizer and the glide slope automatically, and what we can do is we can select manage speed, and we can go ahead and select flaps 1, so long flaps 1, and we can begin slowing down. There you can see localizer is captured, so here the glide slope's coming in. Aircraft slowing down to our green S speed. Yeah, the glide slope is coming in, it's just about to be captured. There we go, glide slope is captured. And we're beginning our descent. So what we can do is we can imagine we've been cleared to land, so let's go ahead and turn on the runway turn-off lights. Nose light can be set to taxi. It's on the speed brakes. 8 miles out, let's select flaps 2. Continue slowing down. You can see that there's the runway ahead. Okay, 7 nautical miles away. Speed is looking good. On the localizer, on the glide slope. Lower the landing gear. Set flaps 3. Ding the cabin.
Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.
Flaps full. Still 6 nautical miles away, so we are configured early. Stable, on glide slope, on localizer. 1,500. A very solid headwind, 25 knots still. Four nautical miles away, 1,000 feet. 3 nautical miles away, 800 feet. Five hundred feet, we're stable, and we are going to continue.
400.
There we have land.
300.
Let's disconnect the autopilot.
200. 100 above. 100. Minimum.
Continue.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Oh. Bad landing, a little bit right to center line. But we are home. Manual braking. 60 knots. And we can vacate here on the right hand side. And there you have it, guys. Welcome to London Heathrow. I'm going to turn off over here, clean up the aircraft, and then we'll park. We'll just park at the nearest gate instead of taxiing all the way to the far terminal. Okay, let's go ahead and stop right here. Set the parking brake. Flaps can go up. Disarm the spoilers. Predictive wind shear can go off. APU can go on. Start the APU. Landing lights can go off. And we can taxi to the parking. Oh, there's a jetway in the middle of the parking. Okay, well, we can just stop here. So I'll set the parking brake. Parking brake set. Go to the overhead panel. APU bleed is on. We can shut down all the engines. So we go engine 1, engine 2 shut down. Strobe lights can go off. Beacon light can go off. Seatbelt signs can go off. Lights can go off. External power can come on. Emergency exit lights can go off. And we can disembark. And that's it, guys. Thanks for joining us on this flight to London. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions regarding the procedures, leave a comment below and I will get back to you. Thanks very much for watching.